Hello, this is Lee Cooper, and this is my video for special education for school leaders, special education interviews. Alright, so kind of jumping right into it. About the child find procedures, our SPED teacher talked about the MTSS process. Then from there, interventions are provided. So that's kind of like together. And then from there, gathering data, and finally maybe moving towards an IEP. The administrator noted that most students have an IEP at the middle school level, coming in from elementary school. And getting an IEP in the middle school, it requires a lot of communication with parents, those things, a series of observations, tests, and surveys to then maybe lead to that IEP. And then the paraprofessional, again, just kind of mentioned the MTSS process. Greatest challenge of role in special education. So the greatest challenge for the special educator was planning with the general education teacher, in particular making sure that they're staying on pace. So the students in the special education pull out, that's how our school does it, are expected to be learning the same things. However, it's difficult to ensure that that's happening and that they're staying on the same pace when students are so far behind. So they were saying that that was kind of the hardest part. The principal talks about, this is the assistant principal, providing individualized supports, and a lot of that can be financial. That's something that they mentioned, especially for the community that we serve, because parents aren't necessarily being able to provide a lot of accommodations and those kinds of things for their students, and then also the school is not able to do as well. And then also how to differentiate. Well, that was what our para talked about, and how to make sure if you have students that are really ahead and students that are really behind, how are you challenging the students that are ahead, and how are you also ensuring that you're serving those students that are behind. Greatest reward of special education and of the special education role. So student growth, I think, was mentioned by all of them, and student growth in particular for the SPED teacher talked about social and academic, and how they're seeing that growth is through application. So as a student able to apply something that they learned in class to a new topic. So again, that might be an academic. In a way that they might be able to apply an academic goal, for instance, is how to advocate. So that was something that they talked about a lot, was teaching students how to advocate for themselves and how to use their resources and those types of things. So then they're kind of seeing those play out through their day, that students are learning how to be confident in themselves and understand that they may need a little extra help. Principal talks about small victories, and again, that a lot of that comes with that student growth and understanding that, you know, our students are not going to maybe grow 3 years in 1 year, right? But what are the small victories that we can have? And definitely comes down to parent gratitude. So when parents are seeing those small victories as well and being gracious for that, that was something that was really big to them. And then lastly, again, the paraprofessional just talks about growth. So advice on supervision of SPED staff. So reliability in relationships was huge. From our special educator. That was something that they really talked about a lot, is that they need to know that the principal is going to be there to support them, and that they can kind of lean on them, they can talk to them, and those types of things. That those are some really big things. So really kind of building that relationship, because it is challenging work for sure. So that's something they really talked a lot about. The principal talks about learning patience. That was, big, that just learn patience, because it takes a lot of it. Find joy, and again, those are the little things, again, she kind of mentioned before, those small victories. So how can we find joy in those small victories? And then lastly, know how to support. So that comes with being knowledgeable, that comes with providing good professional development, and yeah, really just that. And then also being more involved. So the paraeducator actually was a little bit harder to interview, because they weren't able to answer the questions as well, because they're not getting worked with as much from a supervisor. The paraeducator mostly works with a teacher and a special educator, maybe. However, for the most part, there's not a whole lot of supervision coming from the principal. It sounds like there's just really not a whole lot of time to provide that specific supervision, or really just time in general. All right, so going in, working with parents of SPED students, frequent communication, that's big and small. How are we communicating about, hey, I'm going to try this new strategy in class? So she talked about even those little things they like to communicate. And then obviously the big things like IEPs and setting goals and those types of things. Those are things that they're talking about. As the principal talked about remaining knowledgeable and involved. So she likes to attend all IEPs if at all possible. She tries to attend those, even the ones that she's not necessarily required to attend. So, and then remaining knowledgeable, that means going to professional development and learning different strategies, those types of things, and being able to then talk to parents about those things, right? And know it well enough, like, hey, this is something you could try at home, or this is something we're doing it here. This is why we're doing those things, right? If a parent says, like, is concerned about something, whatever, right? They have that knowledge base to be able to draw from. And then the paraeducator mentioned that there is not a whole lot of interaction. There's no interaction from the para to parents. That is done through the SPED teacher. So if a concern does come up, then they would talk to the SPED teacher or just a general education teacher that would then voice those concerns. Working with gen ed teachers, stay available. So that was a big one from the special education teacher, is that making sure that they know that they're always available, they're there to talk, they're there to support, and kind of keeping open that line of communication. The principal mentioned having clear and focused IEPs, so ensuring that when a teacher gets their IEP, they know exactly what needs to happen, and they then can be a little bit creative on how that IEP is happening, like how they're going to ensure that they're meeting those goals in the IEP, and accommodations, sorry. But it's clear and focused, so then the student can understand it, parents can understand it, teacher can understand it, and then it can be implemented. And then lastly, communication and collaboration. That's huge for the paraeducator. That's how they do their job every day, is by having communication, knowing, okay, am I pulling this group, whatever, right? That they're communicating and collaborating. That's how they do their job. Okay. Excuse me. Advice for a first-year administrator. Support and ask questions. Don't stress. That was kind of a big thing. So being patient, not stressing out, and just a lot of that was being humble. So this is kind of coming from all of them. Being humble, building relationships, and how can we make sure that we are supporting our staff? How can we make sure that, and supporting staff, again, through building relationships and also through being knowledgeable. Lastly, determine a focus. So that was a big thing that the principal talks about. Once you have a focus, and by that she kind of means like a ultimate purpose, an ultimate goal, like why are we here? Why are we doing these things? And when you have that, okay, then everything kind of falls into place in order to meet that goal. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then for the paraeducator, it was trying to reach out more. So again, not a whole lot of interaction from the administrators to the para, that they just don't really talk to them because there's just not enough time in the day. So, but again, like we have to make that time. So trying to reach out more, maybe just send an email or something, right? To where they just feel that they do know that they're there. Relationship of SPED teacher and principal. So it's strong, it's built on mutual trust, it's collaborative, it's supportive, and it's reliable. And, right, like there's gotta be a lot of communication, support, and trust built there. Characteristics of aspiring administrators: promptness, communication, trust, positivity, knowledgeable, patient, supportive, flexible, time management, and clear communication. So these are all things that we kind of see as leaders in general. So, even regards to education, right, it's going to apply there. And, yeah, right, like it all, so to kind of go to the last slide here. As a future administrator, it kind of comes down to a lot of it is building relationships, communicating well. And that means being knowledgeable, and that means being personable. Ask questions and being humble. So if you don't know something, hey, I don't know, I will figure that out. We need to get this thing figured out. And also, right, like knowing that your staff is very knowledgeable, so ask questions and be able to get knowledge from them. And then lastly, provide that quality PD, so for yourself and for your staff, so you can all be knowledgeable and you can all serve your students the best. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.